Do I, 37M, tell my wife, 35F, I think her friend went fishing? My wife and I been married for 11 years. Happily. My wife is awesome. She has been friends with Beth for at least 8 years. They also work together. Beth and I have always been on friendly terms. Bordering on friends. Never any awkwardness. She's been a regular in our lives for a long time. Recently my wife was out of town for a few days. I was out for groceries and found Beth in one of the aisles. We ended up chatting and shopping together for about 20 minutes. Just banter. We were about to go our separate ways in the parking lot. She asked me what I was doing later. I said messing around in the garage. If you want any company I can drop my groceries off and swing by. I said something like, nah, I'm fine. Just me and the dogs. Not really thinking about it. Pause. Then she said, oh yeah. Forgot she's out of town. I'll see you around then. Beth sent me a couple of texts late that night about a show she thought I would like. I said, I'll check it out. Thanks. Quote. About 10 minutes later she sent, what are you doing up? Quote. I didn't respond. It was feeling off. We have never texted unless there was a reason. I doubt she forgot my wife was out of town because A. They're close friends. B. They work together and my wife hadn't been to work in 2 days and C. If you want any company, so I'm assuming she knew I would be alone. We have never hung out without my wife. But we're going to now while she is several states away? Was it an innocent gesture that she stepped back from when she realized it might be crossing a line? Fast forward to a barbecue at my house about a week ago. She mostly stuck with my wife and Sil all evening. Any time I was around she went quiet and barely acknowledged me. She left towards the end of the night and walked by me without saying a word. I'm conflicted on whether I should bring this up to my wife. If one of my friends had the same interaction with my wife while I were out of town I'd want to know about it. On the other hand, what if I'm wrong and cause a falling out that doesn't need to happen? My main argument for the latter is this. I knew Beth's ex-husband back in the day, and her 2 serious partners in the years since then. She has a distinctive type of guy she has always gone for and it definitely doesn't fit my profile. Part of me wants to push it to the side and let it blow over. Maybe you could broach it with your wife along the lines of, I ran into Beth at the supermarket while you were out of town. We chatted for a bit and she offered to drop by if I needed company. Then she messaged me late that night. I don't know. It seemed a little off to me. I don't want to overthink it though. What do you think? Quote. As opposed to saying it in an accusatory way. So there wasn't any actual fishing? Tell your wife and show her the texts yesterday. Dude. I'm 40F. You need to cover your ass. She's up to no good. Female here. If Beth and your wife are that good of friends, I would let your wife know. It sounds like Beth knew what she was doing. Let's answer some questions. First, tell your wife. I was surprised to keep reading about a barbecue and you still didn't tell her. Second, about causing a falling out. Well, Beth should have stayed in her lane. She approached you and texted you. Maybe it was innocent. Maybe it was more. Maybe it was your wife testing you. Tell your wife and let her decide the future of their friendship. If it results in them falling apart, that is on Beth. Third, why did Beth go after you? As I said, maybe it was a test from your wife. But I think it was twofold. If her intentions were to go after you, 1. She was lonely and she knew you. 2. You might not be her type. But after a string of failed relationships, maybe she wanted what her friend had. You probably represent the catch in her mind. The guy she hopes to find one day, and when she knew that your wife was away she tried fishing. 3. Beth lacks any common sense and or was drinking. The best thing going forward is tell your wife. Tell her that you feel uncomfortable being alone with Beth. Also reassure how much you love your wife and want to be with her. Listen to what your wife has to say and support the decision. I hope the best for you. Tell her, you said yourself you would want to know about it if something like this happened behind your back. It would be so much worse if this came out later and your wife found out you kept this from her. If you are worried your intuition is wrong, at minimum inform your wife of all the objective facts and let her come to her own conclusion. If I was your wife, literally just the text convo shown to me would be enough. It's clear you aren't guilty here, but Beth is a snake. Less than my face when I expect a fishing story and all I get is adultery. No base all ass. What a shame. Wife, I need to share something with you that made me feel uncomfortable. While you were out of town, I had a couple exchanges with Beth that pushed my boundaries as her acquaintance. I'm not making an accusation or anything. It just felt really important to me to tell you. I'm not asking you to do anything about it, but perhaps we can just talk about it together? Quote, you don't have to be responsible for what she does with this information. And you shouldn't have to feel uncomfortable or like you're walking on eggshells around this woman. And your wife. Just tell your wife what happened and how it felt. And see what she says. Some people just like to take other people's things. It's not about you being Beth's type. It's a game or a challenge. Tell your wife. Friend might have been noisily checking I see if you're up to something anybody while wifey's gone. I'd mention it, but that's as plausible an explanation as the other. On the other hand, what if I'm wrong and cause a falling out that doesn't need to happen? The way I see it, the question of what need, or need not, happen next isn't yours to make. Your wife's friend clearly made a pass at you and you risk betraying her trust by concealing that fact. If you're concerned about misreading the situation, I'd present the facts of what happened without editorializing it, and see what she thinks. I am kind of confused on why you haven't told your wife yet. It seems weird to me. Not even saying you need to say what you think her intentions were, just tell your wife what happened and she can draw her own conclusions. Although it seems obvious she made her move and you denied her. The longer you wait, the more it could seem like you are hiding something. Or keeping the door open. If my husband bumped into my best friend at the grocery store and they were texting, he'd let me know even if it was innocent. Just part of the conversation on what he did for the day, something I'd find interesting. Tell her. Tell her now. Tell her twice. The very last thing you want is even the appearance of trying to hide something when it comes to situations like this. Full disclosure. Right away. I agree with the people here to at least mention in passing, like, hey, when you were out of town, I saw Beth at the store and we texted back and forth. It seemed like she wanted to hang, but I said no. I noticed she was awkward at the cookout. I hope I didn't offend her. Maybe you should plan to hang out with her in case she's going through something. Your wife can then draw her own conclusions and have her own conversation with Beth. This is how I would want my husband to handle it. Not start anything but put me on notice. I think you can put it like this. I had this weird interaction with Beth. It kind of felt like she was hitting on me, but I don't know if I'm overreacting. And then give her the facts of what happened, without any theories you've come up with, so she can determine for herself if it was inappropriate. Okay, I'm gonna get downvoted to hell and back. Boot, hear me out. I have ODHD. I have a majorly hard time with knowing how close a friend is. I would absolutely never sleep with someone who is involved romantically with a friend of mine. Or an acquaintance. Either. I have friends of both sexes. and still occasionally have stay-over parties with a guy friend or two. Movie nights where we all fall asleep. Drinking casually goes long, etc. But it's hard to know when you're close enough to invite to hang out as individuals versus groups, couples. I majorly struggle to know if someone is going from friendly acquaintance to actual friend to lover, and where exactly we are on that scale at any given time. I made the same mistake as Beth a couple of times, asking my friend or their so if they wanted to hang out while their partner was busy, away. While some folks love the mini break to recharge, some don't, and are lonely. I didn't see it as problematic because I knew my intentions were strictly friendly. My bestie, bless her 'cause I'm a bit socially inept, is a saint. She explained that she would have been mad if anyone but me had done that because it's a social faux pas. It can be construed as me trying to sneaky link with them. I was actually super embarrassed to find that out. As I am a pretty literal and straightforward person, I was genuinely just trying to include them in my friend's circle. Now that I know, I don't do this anymore unless both partners are okay with the other one hanging out with me one-to-one. I was so embarrassed I avoided them for a bit, not sure how to fix it or proceed. It could be she ignored you because she is embarrassed and is realizing just how big a gaffe she made, or she's a sneaky, underhanded asswipe. Hopefully, it's the socially inept, rather than the selfish homewrecker option. Tell your wife that you didn't mean to hurt Beth's feelings by rejecting her hangout offers. That you declined because you just didn't know how okay she would be with you hanging with Beth while she was gone. So you just waited till she was back to find out if it was okay. And that since Beth ignored you at the barbecue, you were just wondering if you had hurt her feelings, which wasn't your intent. Wife can handle it from there. No question you should tell your wife. Just be clear that you don't have concrete proof, but that the whole thing feels off and uncomfortable. All these posts saying not to say anything are just wild. Your wife is an adult who can draw her own conclusions. Your allegiance is to your wife and marriage, not to your wife's interaction with her friends. The infidelity subs are full of spouses who are betrayed by their partners having affairs with their BFFs. Secrets in a marriage are rarely a good thing. When Beth comes sniffing around again and your wife finds out, it's going to damage her trust in you for not bringing it up earlier. Beth is a snake. Why wouldn't you tell the woman you love what happened? It just makes no sense. Always allude to the spouse when being approached with unwanted attention. No. My wife's out of town and wouldn't appreciate me hanging out alone with you. This short, sweet and simple phrase tells them a great deal about how much you love and cherish your spouse and the sanctity of your relationship. In my experience, the ones who respect you will simply agree and move on. Those who don't will propose some sort of deception. That's when you decide to tell your significant other. Also keep in mind, this very well may be a test orchestrated by the wife. You know her better than I do. But any time a close friend or relative to my significant other, present or past, approaches me this way, I realize that it's possibly a test to see what I would do. Just something to keep in mind. Kudos to you for not crossing that line.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.